All right, we're live. Okay, so I'm just hanging out here today, in some way speaking to real spirituality and the end of suffering. And I'm coming to terms with my inner arguments with my current office setup because there's a car outside that's just rattling, engine running. And for you, it's not a big deal, but that sound needs to eventually be removed from the recording. Which is really funny. I don't know if you know the story of me having this new setup because I just moved from one island to another. And I moved out of that old house because of the constant dog barkings from the neighbors next door, looking for a quieter area. And then I came here and found this beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood. And of course, after I sign a year-long contract, the neighbor's got a dog, a small dog that's super loud. And I moved next to an airport, and every 15 minutes there's an airplane flying right over the top of my house. Oh my goodness. I was telling my girlfriend the other day, will you remind me why I thought it was such a good idea to move to this city? I seem to have completely forgot why I wanted to move here. But we're here. Do you ever notice that? Isn't that interesting about life? So often we make decisions, we make changes, and at the time it seems like a really good idea. And then you make those changes and you're like, wait, why did I want to do that? There's a part of me that wishes I can go back and stay there. But I'm fine. All right, I asked earlier if there's any topics of interest to explore today. On your heart or mind to give me some sort of direction on what to talk about. What is going on here? Okay. The issue of fear. That's right. Forgiveness. Fear and forgiveness is tied in beautifully together. Finding peace. I'm sure that can tie into it. Oh, the car left now. All right. Classic ideas, classic topics. Fear, forgiveness, finding peace, letting go of control. And I can give a little talk on all of those things. Welcome. All right. I'm going to start the recording. This is where I now need to just take a moment and be still. Breathe in these topics that you want to explore. Allow myself to be totally present here with you. And then pray to God that I have something valuable to say. Here comes an airplane. Also, my goodness, in just preparing myself to speak about these things, I can imagine all the words I have to share. And then at the same time, the idea of just sitting here and smiling with you seems equally as delightful. So I'm going to take my time here, and I hope that you're here to hang out for a little while and just soak it up. This time together can be such a great permission to let yourself relax. Gosh. The human journey, there's such a sweet, sweet sincerity to it. There's a sweet sincerity in the pain and in the joy, and the sincerity of them both in the totality of our human experience. There's a rawness to it. There is that which seems to be beautiful that cannot be held on to forever. And there is a depth of heartache and pain that sometimes feels like it'll never end, but it always passes. There is a great adventure. And yet we always find ourselves coming back to the same present moment of now. Isn't that wild? I mean, whether it was last year or last week, here we are right now, and there is this quality of now that is always the same. Like we wake up from whatever dream we were having, and we're like, oh, I'm just back here to right now. There were so many things that I imagined, so many thoughts I had, so many feelings. And yet in this moment, there's a stillness, almost to the point when looking back at my whole life, it was like nothing actually happened. This moment is the same moment. I find an immensity of gratitude in that. And it's not a moment that gives me all the things I was chasing. It's not a moment that helps me hold on to all the things I feared losing. But it's a moment, it's a stillness that amidst all of that, there's an okayness. There's a recognition that I'm still here. And what a wild ride it has been. And in some way, at least for me, that encapsulates spirituality. A waking up to this moment. To see that the reality of what I am, regardless of the journey I imagined myself to be on, the reality of what I am is still here, whole and complete. Just as I was before I went off chasing something in the mind that I thought I wanted. Just as I was before I imagined myself as missing something. Just as I was before I imagined a bunch of monsters that weren't really there. Do you notice that? Do you see how that happens in our human experience? We're going about our lives, and then we start imagining monsters. Whether that is a monster of taking something personally, or it's a monster of thinking that whatever is going on means you're not enough, means you're unlovable. There's so many different monsters to imagine in this life. And you see this, yeah, that it's imagined. In the same way, in this moment right now, you could start thinking about a future circumstance that terrifies you. And then you can feel that terror in your body as if it's happening. And yet, in the stillness of this moment, it's not really happening. But yet you could feel it. Your heart could start to race. You could even start to sweat a little bit. You could feel an immensity of tension in your body, but yet none of it's actually happening. I wonder if this is profound for you, because for me, it is. That the whole physicality of what I am can recoil in terror in response to what's going on in my imagination. Like I can have this visceral experience of, let's call it hell, but yet that hell isn't actually happening. And as a fun exercise, to be playful here, and hopefully we can look at these things with a sense of humor and not a bunch of self-judgment. But take a snapshot of your past experiences with feeling tension, feeling anxious, feeling heartbroken. And ask yourself the honest question of how much of that was responding to reality, or was it responding to my imagination? And again, not from a place of, oh, you did it wrong or you shouldn't have, but just from a place of curiosity, fascination with your human existence. Of all the struggles I've encountered, the heartache, the tension, the stress, the anxiety, the fear, how much of that was in response to what was actually going on in life, in the present moment? Or how much of it was in response to what I imagined about the past, the present, or the future? And depending on how deeply you have looked at this, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but the inevitable conclusion is that all of your experiences of fear and all of these negative internal states of being are some expression of fear. 100% of it is responding to the non-reality of your imagination. Now, granted, and understandably, our initial response might have been like, wow, it must have been at least half. Or, wow, it was a lot. Maybe 70% was responding to my imagination. And then you look a little bit more deeply at the things that you thought were reality. Oh, actually, this one was my imagination. Okay, maybe it's 90%. And the deeper you go, in your investigation of reality, what's actually true, the more you will see for yourself that in reality, in what is true, in what is real, there is literally nothing to be afraid of. And I understand how that might be a big statement. And if it seems like too big of a leap for you, that's fine. But imagine the possibility. Imagine the possibility that it's true. Play with me. And in our playful exploration, can we come to an agreement that all of your emotional disturbances, from a minor irritation to a painful heartbreak, are only possible because of this element we will call fear? So much to say that to be angry, you have to first be afraid. Even to be sad, you have to first be afraid. To feel lonely, you have to first be afraid. Let's say to feel anything other than joy and gratitude, it means there is fear there. And in no way am I saying that this is wrong or bad or shouldn't be. I'm asking us to question what's really going on. And the more honest we get about our direct experience, not imagining what we think is somebody else's experience, but looking at our experience, the more we look, we'll see this. And it's funny too, because often, I can talk to people and they can be super emotional and super angry, and even to insinuate that it might be because they're scared. it's fun to see the absolute rejection of that idea. I think it's more common for men than it is women. Men don't like to admit that they're scared. But it's fun to sit with people who assume that and break it down. Unravel it. Ask, okay, well, what's really going on? And it's important to see the root. It's important to see that it all unravels to fear. Because then as we explore the reality of what fear is, it starts to heal a lot, if not all, of our emotional disturbances. Do you see this? I mean, in one way, we can tell 1,000 different stories of things that bother us. We can describe 1,000 different negative emotions and then try and deal with all of those experiences and emotions as if they're 10,000 separate things. Now you have 10,000 problems. But to see in a way that shows us it all points to one thing, then we can just deal with that one thing. Furthermore, it's fun and wise to say that we so often want to avoid the real thing. It seems more safe to try and fix all of these stories. We don't want to look that deeply at the real issue because it's the thing we're afraid of most. We'd rather just tell stories of the things that we're afraid of rather than inching our way closer to the real thing, because that's the terrifying thing. And you can see this so often just in our everyday lives. It's closely related to the concept of blame, right? You could be pissed off having a terrible day, and I can ask you, well, what's going on? And then you rattle off all of these stories and excuses that projected outwardly onto other people and circumstance. But then we say, well, wait here. What's really going on? And do you see how it touches a little bit more deeply? It invites you to look inside of yourself, to get intimate, to get raw, to become vulnerable. We don't want to do that. It's much safer to say that the problem is somebody else. The problem is the circumstance, the experience. The problem is life. It's not me. And this is what we do in our human experience, understandably. Again, it's not to say that it's wrong, but it's helpful to see what's really going on so that you can deal with the real issue. Because how well does it go to believe that the problem is everything out there and then trying to fix everything out there, which is to demand that everything be different and demand that everything and everyone be how you want them to be so that you don't get triggered, which is to expose what's really going on inside of you. And every time it gets triggered or exposed, it's asking for you to look at it. Do you see how we do this? And then we want to control the world. Dear world, please be how I want you to be so I don't get triggered and have to see what's really going on inside of myself. It's scary in there. And this, of course, speaks to our adorable determination to control other people, control circumstance, essentially try to be God, to make it how we want it to be so it doesn't disturb us. Which sets up an interesting predicament for the human experience. Because now in order to maintain that control, you're hyper vigilant about what everyone else is doing. It's like you put everybody else in a particular box And now you have to spend your time making sure they stay in that box. It's super adorable. It's adorable because it's an innocent misunderstanding. Based on the assumption, based on what we think life is about, based on what we've been told, it makes sense that we would do that. It just doesn't work. Which, of course, is why we start asking the spiritual question, how do I let go of control? Are you sure you really want to do that? Do you know what's required in order for you to let go of control? You have to get very intimate with that aspect of yourself that is so determined to have control. This really speaks to the nature of real spirituality, which in some ways is simply saying an invitation to see what's true. And for the human being, it's very common that what is really true is terrifying. Let me put it this way, that's probably a little bit more accurate. What is really true is perceived to be very threatening to the illusions we are holding on to. The truth itself isn't terrifying, but it's terrifying to the lie. And, in a gentle way of saying it, traditionally as human beings, we are living a lie. And most of the time, not even knowing it. And it's quite the stark wake-up call to dive in and see what that lie is. Because honestly, let me tell you, that lie in some ways is withholding a tremendous amount of love. And that can be painful to see. It's also like seeing how lost you are. And that can be painful to see. It's also like living the lie that thinks you're better than somebody else, and then seeing a truth that says, no, you're not. That can be painful to see. Does that make sense? It's like living the lie that says your emotional disturbance is caused by other people. And then you withhold love from all of those other people, seeing them as enemies, seeing them as the problem, withholding love from them. And then you see that it's not true at all. That can be painful to see. In one way, and again, I'm saying this super, super, super gently and playfully. But it feels like it illustrates a deeper point, but it's not a judgmental statement. It's like seeing how much you've been a terrible person and not even realizing it. But it's not that it's true that you are a terrible person. But in a way, that's what it can seem like. And all the while, you thought you were right. This is real spirituality. It's not always butterflies and rainbows. It's a deeply profound self-honesty that knocks you off of your high horse and brings you back to a beautiful equality where love can flow freely in all directions. But of course, this is what we're searching for. The truth. The truth about fear, the truth about letting go, the truth about forgiveness, the truth about love, the truth about what we really are. And the suffering that we experience is effectively to live what we are not, which is to live out of alignment with the truth. And there's something in us that innately knows that coming back to the truth is coming back to be in harmony with life, which is also in harmony with the truth of what we are. And do you know what's funny about discovering the truth of what you are? Is you have to see the truth of what you're not. And the more you think you are that, the more painful it is to see that you're not. Right? The more you think you are better than somebody else, do you see how it's more painful to see that you're not? If you already see that you're not better than anyone else, and no one's better than you, then to encounter the truth that you're not better than anyone isn't threatening at all. In fact, coming back to the topic of fear, and I don't know if we'll dive into this completely, but in one way it could be said that the only thing you're actually afraid of is the truth of life. Do you hear me? And if that's too much of a leap, again, imagine the possibility that that's the case. The only thing you're actually afraid of is the truth. Furthermore, the only thing you actually crave in this life is the truth. That's an interesting predicament. The one thing you want most is the one thing you're afraid of. Oh my goodness. And we can summarize this in the statement of, I want so badly to just be myself. My goodness, I'm so scared to just be myself. Do you see how it's saying the same thing? I want the truth of what I am. My goodness, I'm so scared to be the truth of what I am. I want so badly to let go. My goodness, I'm so scared to let go. I want so badly to love. Gosh, I'm so scared to love. I want so badly to embrace this adventure of being alive. Gosh, I'm so scared to embrace this adventure of being alive. I want so badly to be honest. I'm so scared to be honest. Do you see how this points to the real heart of being human? Right? We can say that being human, oh, it's about paying our bills. Oh, it's about getting from point A to point B, yada, 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 all on the surface. What is it really about? So much of this that's going on the surface is just a way that we hide from the real issue. Understandably. It's kind of like, and again, as a point of comedy, there's a very common experience in relationships where when one person is seeking to heal the relationship, all they're trying to do is change their partner. If only my partner was different. Rather than seeing where the problem is really coming from. And in the avoidance of the real issue, the mind spends hours and hours and hours saying, if only my partner was different, expressed in 1,000 different ways. Furthermore, we do that in our relationship with ourselves. Dear self, if only you were different, then I could love you. If only you could be how I want you to be, then I could finally love you. Dear partner, if only you were how I wanted you to be, it would be so much easier to love you. Dear God, give me what I want, then I'll love you. Which is effectively saying what? Dear everyone else, help me not see what I'm afraid of. Help me hide, and then I'll love you. Isn't it super sweet? And I know as we dive into these things, it's easy to find more judgment for yourself, but that isn't the intent of the space here. Okay? This is a casual but deeply sincere investigation into what's actually going on here in this human experience. Because I'm telling you, the more you see the truth of what's happening, the more difficult it is to suffer. Because to suffer is to be out of alignment with the truth of life and the truth of your nature. The suffering is simply trying to get your attention to bring you back into an alignment with the truth of things. And it's not uncommon to get close to the truth of things and to do whatever you can to make yourself suffer to avoid seeing the truth of things. And this is why the mind will try and judge yourself even more as you explore this. it will distract you with that. I find it fascinating to look at my own experience and to see that the only thing I'm afraid of is the truth. The truth that I can't hold on. The truth of the unknown. The truth that who I think I am doesn't exist. The truth that life isn't about me, this character that I imagine myself to be. The truth that none of it's personal. But then to investigate that truth, what do I find out? That is actually what I want. It's also like saying there's a truth that you don't have to carry this burden. The burden of trying to be better than someone else. The burden of holding on to something that's impossible to hold on to. The burden of trying to know something that's impossible to know. And the only thing I'm fighting for in this energy of fear is to hold on to an idea of myself that doesn't exist at all. Do you see this invitation? And I understand that, these are silly words. I'm trying to paint a picture of something and you might not be speaking the same language. But it's pointing to a very intimate and raw experience of being human, where your heart is crying out for something real. And the reality of it isn't going to be found in a particular sentence. It's like I can't give you some phrase to memorize that will be your ultimate salvation. It's not about that. It's about something more honest than that, more honest than words, more real than any symbol you can imagine. But it requires that you go into the deepest depth of your heart's sincerity, your deepest realness as a human being. To see just how deeply you are connected to everything, which is to say how deeply supported you are by life itself, by God, whatever word you want to use. But the reality of this miracle we are swimming in, that in this reality, there is nothing to be afraid of. And again, the only thing you fear is to fear your imagination. the imagination of a life that's not actually happening. A self that sees itself as so undeserving of love is a self that's not actually there. And to open the eyes of your heart and see that really what you are is the absolute embodiment of love. You are that love. And nothing can take it away from you. Do you notice this? I mean, this is the beauty of stillness, which in one way is what spirituality is trying to point you back to. To be still, to get out of the mind, to be present, to breathe, to connect yourself with reality, and to ask yourself, wait, what's really here right now? What's really here right now? What's actually going on? And it's not something to think about. What are you going to think about other than your stories of something that's not actually here? Do you see this? All of your reasons for withholding love, for not allowing love to flow, it's only blocked by an idea, by a story that's afraid of something. There's nothing in reality that blocks that flow of love. And the path of getting out of your mind, in one way, is getting out of this story of you that thinks this life is about you. Right? You know, the image I get here, imagine you're standing at this beautiful cliff on the ocean and you're watching the sun go down. And what you see is just magnificent. What a miracle. And then your friend is standing right next to you, trying to get you to pay attention to his story about last week's argument with his mother. And you say, don't you see this sunset? And he's like, what? What are you talking about? This is way more important. Help me figure this out. They don't even see reality. Is this not a daily occurrence for us as we live our lives? Completely oblivious to the miracle we're swimming in? Lost in our imagination, an argument, a reason for withholding love, a burden to carry, protecting an imaginary sense of self-importance that's trying to get somewhere in the future where we can finally be loved? How's that going? I know it's going terribly. I know that. Because it doesn't work. And if it's not working, then what then is the only option? And in many ways, that only option, again, it can't really be spoken. But the doorway is a vast humility. And you know what's funny is the world has its doorways, but they're doorways to destruction. Right? It's like all of the different ways we try and soothe ourselves in the world. Whether it's numbing our internal state of being, whether it's seeking some sort of worldly comfort that helps us avoid the reality of what's really going on in our hearts. Do you see all of these synthetic doorways in the world? Where we try to numb the reality of our hearts? Where we do everything we can to avoid getting deeply honest about what's going on the inside? And the world has mastered this. Whether it's working tirelessly in some lab, figuring out how can we stimulate the pleasure centers in the brain to make you feel good, which ultimately poisons the reality of your body. But that doesn't matter. It feels good. It tastes good. I feel like shit afterwards, but in the moment it feels good. What can I do to distract myself from the reality of myself? Well, I can blame other people. I can dump a bunch of sugar in my mouth. The options are endless. But again, it's beautiful because we get to try that out and we can ask ourselves, how's it going? Well, it doesn't seem to be changing anything other than getting worse. Okay. You want to try something else? You can try something else in the world and see if that works. That's important. It's important for you to go out there and try all of those options and see that they don't work. I can chase money. I can chase pleasure. I can chase distractions. I can chase all manner of things. And why? What am I avoiding? In one way, again, it's always the same thing. I'm avoiding reality. I'm avoiding the great surrender. I'm avoiding the great humility. I'm avoiding the great laying down of my life to be in service of the real life. Because I'm so terrified, not realizing it's the thing I actually want most. Which makes it all a little bit funny. But of course, if it seems like you're lost in the pit of hell, it's not very funny. And I get that. But just like most everything else in our life, given enough time when we look back, it's kind of funny. Isn't that interesting? How many things in your past where you thought it was such a big deal to the point of withholding love, essentially? Given enough time, you say, oh my goodness, that was silly. And I'm convinced that this is the conclusion once we cross over, or whatever you want to call it. We can look back and say, my goodness, what a ride that was. Holy smokes, I was so scared and I didn't need to be scared at all. What an adventure. And there's no judgment for the fear. There's no judgment that said it should have been this or should have been that. It just is what it was. A learning opportunity to explore all the things you thought you were afraid of so you could see for yourself there was nothing to be afraid of. In many ways, this is the human journey. To go on a great adventure and be exposed to everything you're afraid of so that you see that you don't need to be afraid. So that you can see there's no reasonable reason for withholding love. In many ways, this is the only spiritual evolution, which is to set the condition for more love to flow. This is every challenge you encounter, is to encounter the reasons for withholding love and explore them, investigate them, and see that it's okay to love. Which could also be said, it's okay to forgive. It's okay to let go. It's okay to breathe. And it's okay to be you. Because isn't it funny? If you boil it down, what's the whole problem of being human? I'm afraid to be me. And what's the profound truth of life and spirituality of everything? In some way, to tell a story, it's God saying, I love you. Just be what you are. And what's interesting is, if you look at all of your problematic behavior, whatever that might be, at its core is a fear that you're not enough, a fear that you're unlovable. A fear that simply doesn't see the truth of what you are. Thanks for hanging out with me. That was fun. All right, I rambled for about an hour. That was a good one. Donations. Thanks, Kara. I guess this is the part of the program where you say, oh my goodness, thank you, let me buy you coffee. I receive so much value for that. Let me give value in return. Let me tell the universe that this is where I want my heart to be pointed, in this direction. And then in the great cosmic play, as you donate, it encourages my heart to keep doing what I'm doing and to keep coming back here to hang out with you and loving on you. Isn't it beautiful how that works? Thank you, Firefly. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for supporting me as I support you. Yeah, I had something to say after all. And that's predominantly the case. And it's a super important part of the process that in some way I show up here empty, ready to say nothing. And then life takes over. Thank you, Shelley, for the donation. And it's such a testament to the invitation for how I live my life. I might have my plans, I might have my ideas, I might have my list of things to do, but I really don't know. And so let's show up empty and see what life wants to do. Let's see what life wants to say. That's beautiful to hear, Kara. Is it Kara or Kara? I'm guessing Kara. Kara. Oh, that's sweet. Any last minute questions before I bounce out of here, which is also an excuse to wait for more donations to come in? Yeah, to show up empty, my goodness. I love that in relationships too. To show up empty. Thank you, Cassie, for the donation. Do you guys notice the good feeling that you receive when you donate, which is like a heartfelt thank you? It's a good feeling that you get to experience. So in appearances, it looks like you're giving it to me, but you're giving it to yourself. And then likewise, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but imagine the stingy feeling of, no, I'm not going to give. And that feels kind of gross. That's what you give to yourself. Because we're under the illusion that we are giving to something else other than the self. And so it reinforces an idea of separation. But when you give and knowing that you're giving it to yourself, like the thank you, which is kind of like a thank you to God, which is also yourself. And it's like you're finding reasons to give yourself a good feeling. It's fascinating. Which also speaks to the experiences we have where we feel like so much is lacking, like life isn't giving to us, or other people aren't giving to us, when it simply doesn't work that way. The only lack of love that we experience is our own lack of love flowing out of us. The only love we experience is the love we allow to flow through us. And we have so many beautiful but insane excuses for withholding love, so therefore we don't experience love. Which is the classic, I'll love you if. If you be how I want you to be, then I'll love you, which is to say, love is not flowing right now. And then the moment someone even pretends to be how you want them to be, you're scared they might change, so it's still not safe to love you. Do you see this wild quest we have as human beings, where we assume the thing that we want is out there in the world, or it's in the hands of other people? It just sets up a massive restriction of love. What a wild thing it is to see that the one thing that we actually want, and we can call it love, is inside of you, waiting to flow, waiting to be given to everyone and everything. And then there is the play of others. There is the play of separation. And you can play in that. Like with my partner, I can say, oh my gosh, I love you so much. And it looks like I love her. That's the play of it. But really, there's this immensity of love inside what I am that wants to flow out, and it's flowing in your direction. The appearance of your direction. Likewise, if she wasn't open to receive love, then it doesn't matter how much love I give her. We all have those moments, right? Where somebody says, I love you so much, and you're like, get out of here. I don't care. I don't feel it. So in the appearance of receiving somebody else's love, It's only because you have an open channel in you to let love flow, which looks like a receiving of their love, but it's to experience your own love. I should probably just mention that. If you want to come hang out at my home with me, in my super non-spiritual retreat, it's just human beings being human beings, getting in touch with what's actually going on. But we can call it a spiritual retreat. Just don't expect a bunch of spiritual shenanigans. Just real humans falling in love with life. I have a stark, what's the word? Aversion to spiritual hyperbole. Or a spiritual pretense. The great spiritual pretending. All right. I think that's it for me. The donation total sits at $43.29. Is it possible to get to 50? I don't know. I'm visualizing it right now. Let's see if it happens. Because then I could be happy. Then my life would make sense. If only. All right, lovelies. I'll be back again same time tomorrow. We're doing a series. Holy smokes, somehow it just jumped up huge. Who was that? Oh, Amelia, you did another one. Yeah, that was the same Amelia. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, you put me back together. Now I'm going to feel like my life is perfect for at least 15 minutes. And then I'll go demand something else be different in the world. To reclaim my completion. Thank you so much. I'll be back again tomorrow, same time. We're doing a series of 6 live sessions in a row. I think this is number 4. Thursday, Friday, yeah. And then I'll say the same thing I did today, but probably in a different way. And we'll see how that goes. Thanks for being here with me. Tell your friends. They might enjoy it too. Bye-bye.